was only a lieutenant in the army, so he treated it with respect. The camp was located in town where about half or maybe over half of the people were people that were German colonists, German settlers that Austrian Empress sent to colonize the Hungary. So again, my father had good relationship because he spoke perfect German, and they would always invite her doctor, as they called him, or her Hauptmann, depending which way they wanted to call him, which is either a captain or a physician. And so we were received, and as a matter of fact, on the second day we went to meet this lieutenant, and for the first time I had very good chocolate liqueur, sweet, because he had this chocolate liqueurs, I think it was Swiss with some cherries in it. And I really
there were other Polish prisoners of war that brought their family to the camp?
The what?
There were other Polish prisoners of war that their family joined them?
The one that came in 1939, and there were a lot of civilians that ran from Poland, and there were camps for civilians, and camps for officers, and camps for soldiers, and the soldiers were sent out to help the women who were left without men, and the camp would provide them support, like they would fix the shoes. If the shoes broke, they would send it to and they would give them the medical and logistic support for those guys that were being put as not a slave labor, but somewhat like a slave labor, that they would go ahead and work on those. Because in the camp itself, there were probably about 100 people or so.
It actually I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds like almost that was a safer place to be in the war than almost anywhere.
That was under Geneva Convention. There's
Yeah.
a Geneva Convention that in Geneva Convention is, if you are a friend with the country and your friend is an enemy of your other friend, or you are his ally, like Hungary was an ally of Germany, your responsibility is to make him intern, so he cannot help to hurt your other friend. So it's not quite a prisoner of war, but it's interned person of war that you are kept to be made not able to hurt Germany. You're supposed to sort of sterilize him. That's the idea.
So that's what's called an internment camp.
Yes, internment camp, yeah. And they did the same with civilians. They had internment camp for civilians because they were all enemies of Germany.
But now, you went to school there.
Yeah, they had a Polish high school which was terrific. But Zosia actually went to a meeting because they have a society after in memory of this high school that was operated with very superior teachers that came from good high schools back in Poland, different parts of Poland.
So I'm not talking about for a Jewish person, but even for a not Jewish person, if you were left to live in Tarnopol versus here, this was better, right? This was safer.
I would be dead.
Right.
It was very simple.
But even if you were just a Polish person and not a Jewish person?
No, if you were a Polish person, but you couldn't live as a Polish person if you were a Jewish person.
But I'm just saying, even if you were a Polish person, was your life safer in the internment camp?
Oh, yes, because you had, the Hungary didn't get bad until later. Anyhow, then they had one camp, or not camp, but retirement home for elder military and civilian Poles, and they had very big trouble to maintain it well. And And somehow this countess that formed this organization that was very working with the Poles to help them in Hungary, got my father's, somebody recommended that my father should take it over, and she approached my father if he would take over this retirement home.
Sedgebrook.
What?
Sedgebrook for
Not quite Sedgebrook, but it was retirement. It was part of a Sedgebrook, the health center, as they call it. And so he accepted it, and my parents went to Keszthely. That was the little town next to the big lake in Hungary. There's a big lake, Balaton. And at that time, 1/3 of the lake was owned by this Count or Prince Festitich. The other one was just the northern part of it was owned by Esterhazy. This is Esterhazy, who was
Mozart.
with Dreyfus' affair. He was the spy. And the complete northern part of that lake was owned by the Bishop of Veszprém. And the town actually, when at that time the Festitich was, the old Festitich died. The only Festitich alive was a boy about 10 years old or so, and when he was in town, the flag would wave on the palace, and there was an old couple that would be driving. There were 4 horses drawn carriage with an open thing, and there was this little boy sitting, and there was this man that was next to him, gray man with gray hair, and equally old woman that was his governess sitting with him in the back, and her husband was going
With the
for
horses.
horses, and they would go through town. And the provision that his father made of this little boy, that the main gate to the palace will be closed until, and nobody will open it until the Habsburgs are again the kings of Hungary. Unfortunately,